What's up YouTube, Tech All Star here, and in today's video I'm going to be explaining to you guys a little bit about how I got into drifting and the motorsport in general. And the reason why I'm making this video is because I have been having a lot of newer subscribers, and even for you people that have been coming back to my channel, I think that it's good for you guys to know a little bit about me and why I do what I do. And this video is very long overdue. So ever since I was a child, I've always been into cars, always played with Hot Wheel cars. My grandparents would always buy me and my brother Hot Wheel cars pretty much like every day that we hung out with them or stayed at their place. And ever since I can remember, all I wanted to do is become a race car driver. And I even had to kind of suppress those feelings so that I could focus on other things in life, such as school and everything. In addition, I always thought that it was kind of weird for people to hear that my dream is to become a professional race car driver, because that's something that's a little unorthodox, something that a lot of people didn't or don't believe in. But at the end of the day, I have to believe myself to do it. Now, going forward over the years as a child, I looked at traditional racing, whether it be circuit, time attack, autocross, drag racing, NASCAR, and I really like watching that stuff. But for me, since I'm an artist and I draw a lot, or that form of motorsport didn't really interest me too much, because 9 times out of 10 the cars didn't look as cool as I thought that they could have, or even with NASCAR, the cars didn't 100% represent the original car that it's supposed to represent. And at that time I was really heavy into Need for Speed, just like the rest of us, in the Need for Speed Underground and all that. A lot of car customization, that's what I wanted. And I more so wanted a sport that was about looking cool and being cool, rather than just who's the first to the finish line. Something a little bit different, something that fit my artistic style. And long story short, eventually, by the time I was 6 years old, when Tokyo Drift came out, the infamous movie that kind of changed the Fast and Furious timeline and everything. When that movie came out, it just completely transformed everything for me, because right then and there, that's all I wanted to do. After watching that movie, seeing how they're doing it, I just wanted to figure out how are they doing it, why are they doing it, and why in the world does it look so cool? Because not only do the cars look cool, but the way you perform the techniques just looks cool in general. Like, it's insane to be able to take a vehicle that's meant to just go straight and take corners normally and make it do basically the opposite of what it's designed to do, and be able to balance it. And having balance is a huge thing in my life and whatnot, such as like foods. I'm just gonna use foods as an example. Like food and whatnot, I want a balanced taste. I want to be too salty or too sweet or whatever. I want it kind of somewhere in the middle, a nice balance. And for me, drifting is about finding that balance while being artistic, finding your artistic balance behind the wheel. And what's so spectacular about the sport to me, most importantly, is that you can see everybody's individuality and who they are through the way that they drive. Everybody has a different driving style, and you can really see a piece of their personality, where they came from the way that they drive. And the biggest example of that would be like Forrest Wang, someone who's from Hawaii, which is typically you're gonna say like surfer dude type of deal, like real laid back or whatever. And that's kind of how his driving style is: very smooth, very stylish, and very laid back. And then you have someone like James Dean, who is very calculated, very on point, very perfect, but also stylish with it. And he also carries that in the way that he presents himself through media. Or even, my favorite, Chelsea Denofa, he's a very outspoken, very aggressive guy. And you see that in his driving. He's very aggressive, very flashy, very on point with everything. And you can see, like I said, you see each individual's personality through the way that they drive and the way that their car handles. And to me, that's what makes drifting so special. What makes it so much different from any other motorsport is that you can see who the person is just by the way that they drive around the course. Because at the end of the day, we're all doing the same course, but how you go about it is entirely up to you. In addition, watching Tokyo Drift and all the other Fast and Furious movies a ton of times, I actually got to the point where I could recite all the lines word for word. And that's why my wife won't really watch those movies with me, which I don't blame her, because it'd be aggravating to watch a movie and somebody just saying everything before it's even said. So, after watching Tokyo Drift, and eventually by the time I got into middle school, my mom gave me my first smartphone. And the first thing I looked up was Dragon Ball Z, because, I'm huge into some animes and whatnot. And Dragon Ball Z was a huge one, so I watched Dragon Ball Z. And then the second thing I looked up was how to drift. And then I discovered Kaiichi Tsuchiya's Drift Bible, and I started learning from that. I started watching old school California and Japanese street drifting videos, which you can't really watch any of that stuff anymore. I think all those videos got taken down, or maybe YouTube is too oversaturated with content for you to be able to find those videos anymore. I used to watch all this stuff. I thought it was just amazing. I was just fascinated. And I used to think that, you know, your steering wheel could only turn like 90 degrees until I actually watched the videos. I'm like, oh wow, these guys are like doing a lot in the car, way more than I thought. And over time, you know, I wanted to learn, like, how can I get into this? You know, I had already been practicing a long time in the video games since underground, how to drift and stuff, even though I didn't really know what it was back then. But then I ended up watching the Slap Train. You know, huge thanks to him, and big shout out to him. Little side note, he's actually competing in our Diverse Tribe Drift series on a set of Corsa. Y'all guys can check that out. Again, I have some videos out once the season is pretty much over with that. But, you know, I was watching Slap Train, and the way I started watching him was by I was basically window shopping Forza, because I was like, dang, is Forza worth for me buying the Xbox for? Because, you know, I've always been PlayStation and everything, and I still am, but right now I have an Xbox that I don't even really play. I just play on a PC. So I started watching his videos, and I really liked his personality. He was super cool to watch, and he still is a lot of fun to watch. And he was like one of the only people that was very consistent with showing wheel sim driving content. And then just from watching his content, I got so inspired that all I wanted for my 16th birthday was to get my very first sim wheel, which was a Thrustmaster T150. And, you know, I got that wheel, and at the time there were no games that actually had parts or anything for drifting in the game. So you just kind of had to drive the cars the way they were, or if the car was already drift set up, which usually they didn't have any angle or anything like that. So I was just driving the cars the way they were, and I was playing Gran Turismo 5, which was, I'm not gonna lie, it was really hard to drift on the wheel in that game. You had to kind of like shimmy the wheel a lot to kind of keep the car in drift. You kind of do that in like some of the Forza Horizon games too. Do a lot of wheel work and corrections to keep the car sideways. And it took me probably like 3 months to really be able to link a course, and then about 6 months to be able to tandem. And, you know, and now these days you have a set of Corsa mods, all these different games that have insane mods and drift features, where, you know, anybody can hop on the game and become a great drifter now, which is amazing to see that the sport is growing so much that is now in the video games, and that everybody can train no matter where you are or where you're from. And, you know, I spent my years playing online. I even got a set of Corsa on the PlayStation, which is nothing like, or I can't say it's nothing like, but you can't really do the mods on the console version or anything like that. But my go-to drift car was the Corolla 886. I really liked the way it felt, and I really had to drive the car. And throughout all that time, I didn't have a handbrake or anything. I didn't even have a shifter. I was using paddles and gas, brake, and clutch. That was it. And ended up joining a crew on that game. We actually did 4 rounds of competition, and believe it or not, with me just with my wheel, my paddle shifters, and my 3 pedals, I ended up winning the entire competition. No handbrake, no nothing, just whipping the car as hard as I could. And I ended up beating like all these guys that were much older than me at the time, who already, you know, drifted in real life and knew a lot more about driving than I did, which, you know, kind of cemented to me that I can really do this, that this is something that can be true for me, because I'm a champion within, but at the end of the day, I have to believe that I'm a champion for it to be able to come out and work towards that. Then later down the line, I got onto Forza, and then shout out my old buddy, Doug Human. He started a group on there, and we didn't do any competitions. It was just us tandeming, and that's when I really learned how to tandem like extremely well. And we were playing Forza Motorsport 7, and he taught me how to like tune the cars, and I started tuning the cars for the way that I wanted to drive. And I don't know if you guys ever noticed that my driving style is more so, I don't really know how to explain it, it's more so aggressive, and I want the car to have a certain look as far as the way it transfers its weight. When people see my car move, I want them to think to themselves like, dang, he's swinging the car. I want the car to have that really heavy weight transfer look and snappy transitions. And believe it or not, I think that's why I like the Mustang so much, is because the Mustang has a lot of weight transfer, because it is a heavy car. It's really agile and it's really snappy. And with that weight transfer, you have to really know how to control it with your steering and your throttle inputs to balance the car with the weight transfer, so that it doesn't throw you off guard. And what I didn't know is that I was already tuning my cars like that before I ever was even able to drive. And that's mainly because I was tuning the cars in a way that they were really gripped up to where I could essentially just use the throttle to drive out of the huge angle that I would throw. And that's kind of how I like to drive in general. Because at the time I didn't have a handbrake, so I just had to whip the car as hard as I could, with as much speed as I could, to be able to make it through each corner to link tracks that you need like an e-brake extension to be able to make it from one corner to the next. And then eventually I ended up going to, I think it was Gran Turismo Sport. And for some reason in that game, my favorite car and the best car I drove, S550 Mustang. And at the time I wanted one, but I didn't have any aspirations to actually get one anytime soon. I planned on getting one when I was like 30, 40 years old, when the cars were a little bit older. And being inspired by Chelsea DeNofa, following his journey, and Von Gittin Jr., you know, I got a little bit more interest in the S550 Mustang. And then next thing you know, I'm playing it in the game. I'm still like a teenager or whatever, but for some reason the car matched my style. No matter what game I played, the car just matched the way I like to drive. And then eventually, you know, after I witnessed Von Gittin Jr. win his last championship, I was like, bro, I gotta go get one now. So I ended up test driving one, absolutely loved it. It was like the most powerful car I had ever driven in my entire life. And that car, I don't know if you ever driven an S550 Mustang, but the car will light up the tires really quick. So, you know, I'm over here driving it, traction control and everything's still on. And even with traction control on, the car can still cut loose like out of nowhere. So traction control's on, my dad's in the passenger seat with me, and I'm at first, I floor it, I quickly shift to second, and the car just lights the tires up, goes completely sideways, and I'm just over here like, da-di-da-di-da. Just a Sunday drive, I'm over here cruising, because, you know, I've been practicing how to drift in the sim all day, so it was nothing to me. But my dad, he started freaking out. He's like, oh, hold up, boy, chill out. And I started yelling. I was like, yeah, Dad, I told you I could drive. And that day is when I pretty much got hooked on the car. It drove way better than I expected. It's way more agile than I expected. It had a lot of power, and to my surprise, I could control it, even though it was something I had never ever driven, in a car that I had never driven that had like 400 horsepower or anything like that. So long story short, as you guys can see, I have the Mustang. It's spiraling all the way back down to when I was a child, you know, watching drifting, watching Fast and Furious, playing racing games and everything. Here we are today. I have my own drift car, and this is just the beginning of my journey of becoming a professional driver who can then, you know, sustain my lifestyle with driving and drifting, and eventually become a champion and be able to share my passion with you guys and teach others how to do the same. Because it's not, although this channel is mine and this is what I'm doing, I'm sharing my journey with you, at the end of the day, this is about all of us, because at some point I'm going to have to give back to the next generation, or even those that are of the same generation who want to aspire to do the same thing, to be able to inspire other people to be able to reach their goals and their dreams. Because at the end of the day, we're put on this earth to fulfill God's will and to live out the best life that we possibly can. It's not worth waking up every single day, going to job, and you just hate life. What kind of life is that? What's the point of living life like that? So now it's pretty much going to sum up how I got into drifting. Now, like I said earlier, how I view drifting is more of an artistic perspective, and the movie I'm going to use as my reference for that would be Speed Racer. Now, granted, that movie is pretty outlandish and kind of crazy looking, which if you ever seen like clips of the old cartoons, which was way before my time or way before any of y'all time who's watching this video, it's an outlandish anime or cartoon in general. But overall, you know, from watching that movie, Speed Racer, it really showed that, you know, with the motorsport or even in life in general, you have to follow your passion and do what's right for you, rather than just doing what's right for a company or for the society or anything like that. And in that movie, it speaks about speed racers driving being a form of art. And to me, that's what drifting is. It's a form of art. That's what cars are to me. It's a form of art. That's why I'm so passionate about it, because like I said, I am an artist. I draw, I design, all that type of stuff. And to be able to connect the motorsport world to the artistic world is unbelievable. And that's exactly what drifting is. It's bringing two mediums together and making it one. You have the artistic side, and then you have the motorsport. It's just one. And then the way everything is performed, the way everything is done, the way everything is judged, it's all art, and it's all appealing to the eye. That's why we love it. That's why I'm into it. That's what this is all about. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. And, you know, my goal is to go out there, drive on track, perform the best I can, and most importantly, look the best I can out on track, because if you don't look cool out there, then what's the point? Cars gotta look cool, you gotta look cool, and you gotta drive cool. But other than that, that's gonna do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Just a little insight on myself, how I got into all of this, what my mindset is, and where we're gonna go. So I'll see you guys in the next one.